What's going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Terrifier 2. This was written and directed by Damien Leone, starring David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown and Lauren Lavera as Sienna. This movie takes place after the events of the first movie. Art has been resurrected by a sinister entity, and he returns to the timid town of Miles County, where he targets Sienna, a teenage girl, and her younger brother on Halloween night. David Howard Thornton is reprising his role as Art the Clown here, and there is a good reason. He is absolutely terrifying in this movie. The guy doesn't say a single word. All he does is smile and stare at you, and it gives you nightmares. Just the look of this. Like, this guy is the complete opposite of Pennywise the Clown in a lot of ways. But the biggest one for me is Pennywise the Clown uses your worst nightmares against you, right? Art the Clown is your nightmare. The biggest thing for me is that Pennywise the Clown, not really something that can exist. Art the Clown, minus all the bit of the supernatural stuff, is actually a person that could exist today. That, to me, is what is just terrifying. And one thing I would like to point out, though, Damien Leone did a lot of the makeup and prosthetics for Art the Clown in this movie. It's his character, and he's just like, I want to do it this way. And so he puts a lot of it into it himself. And so for that, I applaud the guy. Like, he did an absolutely amazing job, and he clearly knows what he's doing with this character. So for that, good job. Lauren Lavera as Sienna, she was absolutely fantastic. Like, I loved her as a character, but not just that, she also did a really good job of displaying fear in this movie whenever Art the Clown was around, or just anything that she had to deal with, essentially. Like, she's still getting over stuff that happened in her past. She just recently lost her father, and so she's been dealing with that, and there's a bunch of stuff that's going on in her life, and Art the Clown is something that is just fueling into her, and it's scary for her, and you can just feel it. Like, you can see the fear in her eyes and everything. And so she did an absolutely fantastic job. I loved it. The blood and gore for this movie is absolutely fantastic. Like, they don't shy away in this movie. Like, you are getting a full frontal experience of what's going on. It's not like the first one where they kind of showed you things that were happening. This one, you literally get to see everything happen. Somebody gets their face smashed in, you see it. Somebody gets their head cut off, you see it. And it's very gruesome. Art the Clown doesn't just kill people and then, like, chops up their body and stuff like that. No. He does stuff with the bodies after he has killed you, and it makes it a little bit disturbing. A little funny in some parts, not gonna lie. But for the most part, it's absolutely disturbing. I don't want to give away too much, but wow. But this movie is so long. I think it's like 2.5 hours long, and possibly more when you include the trailers for the movie. It does move at a pretty good pace, so I never found myself being bored, but you could probably trim a good 30 minutes off of this movie. Yeah, there's just a few scenes where I'm just like, you probably could have cut this part, or you probably didn't need this in there. There's one particular dream sequence that just seems to kind of go on for way too long, and that was one part where I'm just like, okay, you really could have probably cut like a minute off of this, and the movie would still be just fine. Like, it was kind of like that throughout the entire movie. I don't mean that in the way of like, oh, this movie has pacing issues, because I didn't really find myself being bored or anything like that. It was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, you really didn't need this kind of stuff in there. that's where the runtime kind of gets a little bit long for me. But Damien Leone, he also did a lot of the editing for this himself. And so for that, I applaud him, you know. He did a lot for this movie, more than just write and direct it. Like, he was actually in the whole process. Like I said, this is just like a minor critique of mine that I felt. The storyline for this movie also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's supposed to be some weird connection between Art the Clown and Sienna and her family that links with her father and this one particular item. I don't want to say what it is, just for spoiler's sake, but it's supposed to somehow connect the two together, but they never explain how come exactly. So it just felt weird to me, and I just was I was a bit confused. I wasn't very confused, but I was just like, okay, are you just putting that in there so that way they end up, like, fighting at the end or something like that? Or, like, to say that, oh, this was all inevitable? That kind of thing, you know? I don't know for sure, but it was one of those things that just felt very weird to me. There is one murder scene that does kind of stick out to me, not exactly in the best way. The gore and everything like that was fine, but the girl who was getting murdered, it felt a bit off, mainly to do with, like, the screams and everything like that. Like, they weren't screaming like they were getting killed. They were screaming as if more like someone had taken a hammer to their hand and smashed it. That was more what this felt like, and not that they were getting chopped up. So it felt very off to me, and it could just be me. It was just this one where I'm just like, okay, you could be screaming a little bit more. Or loudly. Other than that, it was fine. It was just one of those things where it just kind of stuck out to me. Where I'm just like, huh. Okay. Overall, this movie was a great time, and I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. This movie was so much fun to watch. If you get the chance to, I highly recommend seeing it in theaters. Do be warned, it is still very gory. If you don't handle that kind of stuff very well, maybe wait for it to come out on DVD, so that way, if you need to, you can pause it and take a break every so often. Other than that, I absolutely loved it. There's not really any scenes that I can think of off the top of my head that where I'm just like, oh, I absolutely loved this scene more than any of the others, because all of the murders and everything are just great. And then the final confrontation at the end, I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. Alrighty, guys, well, that's going to do it for this review. Down in the comments, have you seen the movie? What did you think of it? Is it too much for you to watch? Also, list some of your favorite Gorefest movies down below, so that way I can check it out if I haven't seen it already. And thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!